Chapter 3 The Big Boys.
Why are we even discussing budget at this point? Rule 1, never count your chickens. Quickest way to lose.
4-star General Angus Kellogg, U.S. Army retired, 260 pounds of crusty sledgehammer, addressed a gathering in a Los Angeles penthouse. He was talking to the Republican Party presidential candidate, who was present as the subject of the meeting. Hawk sat on a blue velvet Nico couch, intently listening to the conversation. He found the entire scenario surreal. He was meeting with the most influential men in the country and could see no logical reason for his being here.
There's one inescapable fact. We have to expand the party's perimeters.
The sound of Kellogg's voice made Hawk uncomfortable. It was phlegm-garbled ugly. He sounded like he was strangling, like his neck was chock full of slime and gravel. If a talking frog had pneumonia, it would sound like Kellogg. Hawk wanted to clear his throat.
Frankly, we can't put this country on a path to Christian dominance of the world until we win this election.
The statement was so odd, Hawk wasn't sure he'd heard it right. He looked around the room. No one else seemed surprised by the declaration.
It's a new day. There was a time when this conversation would have been absurd, but times have changed. The key to winning is winning. Nothing succeeds like success.
Kellogg seemed to be ranting, but his redundant cliches perfectly exemplified his future plans.
Today, winning simply means securing the black female vote. Getting that vote is the whole ball of wax.
That's when Hawk realized why he was here. They needed the decorated Marine to parade around in the upcoming campaign. All right, Hawk thought, that accounts for me, but what about Hispanics? They're the fastest growing demographic, and not one Hispanic in the room. Kellogg seemed to read his mind.
Mexicans are too scared to vote. They know ICE will be waiting for them. But these church-going black gals are a different story altogether. We need to get on them right away.
Everhard offhandedly proffered a preference for old-school voter suppression.
If I had my druthers, that's how I'd play it too. And if this approach fails, that's what we're gonna do. But like I said, times have changed.
Kellogg looked to Hawk, who met his gaze with a blank canvas.
But fortunately for us, most black voters are Christians. And who's got the greatest Christian ticket of all time?
He paused as a seldom-seen grin spread across his face.
We do. All we need is the right person to spread the word in the black community.
Hawk listened poker-faced, but Everhard seemed uncharacteristically vulnerable. He was as transfixed by the events as Hawk was, and for many of the same reasons. He was rich and successful now, but he had started life in a lowly Texas trailer park.
A vote for Edith Everhard is a vote for Jesus Christ himself.
The audacity of the statement embarrassed Everhard, but it only spurred Kellogg on.
And any vote against him is a vote for the devil. Straight out of hell.
He raised both hands overhead and made a victory sign.
If you love Jesus, you'll vote for Edith Everhard. That's the message. We're gonna pound and pound and pound. If you love Jesus, if you love Jesus, if you love Jesus, and nobody, and I mean nobody, love their Jesus more than these black African-American gals.
The old general had given it his best. His face had turned a rosy pink and tiny beads of sweat glistened on his forehead. Dressed in his usual black vestments, Father Will Gallory grinned profusely. The U.S. Superior of the Society of Jesus stuffed both hands in his pockets and rocked back on his heels. Gallory had received special dispensation from the Vatican to act as Everhard's Secretary of the Treasury, should he win. Unlike Kellogg, Gallory's voice was soothing. Relax, Angus. Don't discount the entirety of the Hispanic Catholics. Remember, they're the only ones who actually name their children after Jesus. Those who do venture out to the polls will certainly have some inclination toward our ticket. And you've seen the polls. The numbers get better every day. Internal projections suggest we're making inroads with independents as well as conservative minorities. It'll be close, but if we shave a few more black and brown votes in the big cities, we're in there. Galori took a sip from a hand-blown Baccarat glass while staring a confirming look at Hawk. We don't have to worry about the blacks. Given the proper use of our resources, I don't see any reason to panic. Despite Galori's manner and tone, he'd rightly earned the nickname, the Black Pope. But Everhart wasn't convinced. He got up from the overstuffed leather nubuck chair and meandered to the window. Looking down on the Century City streets below, he was circumspect. Angus might be right, Will. The polls are encouraging, but they're not foolproof. There's many a slip between the cup and the lip. Times are indeed changing. If we're going to be in this for the long run, we need those fresh votes. Everhart didn't know much about politics, but he did know human nature. He'd fed his flock a steady diet of we're better than them, and he knew it wouldn't be easy to substitute the menu. Speaking to Galori's reflection in the window, he asked, How are we looking out here? Carter Boatwright, partner at Vincent & Elkins, Houston's largest law firm, joined the conversation. Don't waste resources. We've no chance in California, was his matter-of-fact reply. Boatwright was a 35-year-old wonderkind with angular good looks and noble ambitions. His successful strategies representing clients before the Texas Supreme Court in corporate patent infringement cases had resulted in his becoming the youngest partner in the firm's history. It wasn't only Boatwright's legal mind that had convinced Galori to bring him aboard the campaign. Boatwright was also a fellow Jesuit. It depends on how you define resources, Everhart said, causing Galori to comment. Find a running mate from here in California. Someone not too flashy. We still won't win the state, but we can imply inclusion. Something about the moment stirred Hawk to speak. Shifting in his seat, he ventured. Excuse me, gentlemen, but just to be clear, what is my involvement in this situation? He instantly regretted it. He didn't want to seem pushy. Everhart turned around. That black female vote. Surely you know that. Hawk did know that, but the naked frankness of Everhart's response caused him to cough. Something stuck in your craw? Been looking forward to meeting you. You come highly recommended. Kellogg tells me Colonel Jaworski has nothing but the highest regard for you. He says you're a patriot who never fails to carry out an order. Hawk was wondering what Jaworski was getting out of this when Angus Kellogg asked.
Is Jaworski right?
Angus Kellogg served 30 years in the Army. The last 10 had been attached to the Special Activities Division of the CIA. He'd made his bones in SAD, where he was part of two separate groups, SAD-SOG for tactical paramilitary operations and SAD-PAG for covert political action. Kellogg gave Hawk the once-over.
Your former CO says you're a fellow who knows how to play ball. He says you know what to say, how to say it, and when to say it. That right? Because I tell you before we get too deep into this, if I thought you didn't know how to play the game, I would never have agreed to let you be on the team.
All eyes trained on Hawk. For the first in a long time, he didn't have a ready answer. Kellogg wasn't keen on his silence.
We don't want to keep you if you don't want to stay, so you staying on the field or you hitting the showers?
This wasn't a hard question. Hawk straightened up. I've always been a team player, sir.
All right, then.
Kellogg leaned forward in his chair.
Now let's get one thing straight. Whenever we're talking about blacks around here, we're not talking about you. I understand you're one of the good ones.
Carter Boatwright instantly objected to the characterization.
You can't say that.
Kellogg wasn't a man to be challenged by what he considered to be a snot-nosed white shoe.
Can't say what?
That he's one of the good ones. You're implying that he's an exception and that most of his people are not good.
Kellogg exploded.
God damn it, Carter. You know what the fuck I mean. And so do you, Hawkins. You made considerable contributions to the country. You pulled your weight, but not everybody's like you. You understand?
Hawk did understand. He understood that he was what was known heretofore as an acceptable Negro. a non-threatening, compliant social eunuch. When compared to the stereotypical angry, lazy, scary black, Hawk was indeed an exception to conventional wisdom. He'd worked long and hard to establish the distinction, and he wasn't ashamed of it. Glory suddenly chuckled.
I was thinking about what Angus said, that you're one of the good ones. It reminded me of the parable of the Good Samaritan. Those Samaritans must have been an absolutely abhorrent group of people. Imagine, out of all of the Samaritans in the whole of the land, there wasn't but one good one. Oh my.
Even though it hadn't been that funny, the mood lightened. Hawk took advantage of the moment to ingratiate himself.
I could show up when you needed me and stay away when you didn't.
To see what else he might learn, he asked,
Is there any particular talking point you'd like me to advance? You can sell them anything you like.
Everhart's famous smile finally made its grand entrance.
That's your job.
Pouring cognac from a crystal decanter, he added,
But whatever you say, whatever you do,
we have to have their confidence, and I'm counting on you to deliver it. You'll never have their confidence, Hawk thought, but said instead.
Yes, sir.
Suddenly effervescent, Everhart spouted.
Let me state the obvious. You'll be our blackface. You'll deal with the usual suspects, civil rights organizations, academics, religious leaders, et al. Start by making inroads with the big churches. The bigger, the better.
Go after the TV preachers first. They make the best persuaders.
Just make them understand. It's in their best interest to align themselves with this campaign.
Because it is.
Hawk understood this was the same election season soup warmed over. But you never know, he thought. Maybe I could actually influence policy. What did he have to lose? He wasn't sure.
Yes, sir. No problem, sir.
He promised, trying to find some non-committal phrases to follow up with.
I could be your man, if you think we might all benefit.
Angus Kellogg lost it.
In case you hadn't noticed, it's a dog-fuck-dog world out here. And unless you got a hankering to be stank-ass canine cunt, you best forget about everybody else and worry about yourself.
Just checking, Hawk thought. Kellogg wouldn't know it, but he was Hawk's favorite kind of guy. A man who spoke his true mind. Kiss my ass, Hawk thought, but said instead.
I've no cunt hankerings of any kind, sir.
Glory rested his glass on the African blackwood table.
Now, Angus, Lieutenant Colonel Hawkins will be working with us, and we don't want him to feel unappreciated. Damn right we don't. Look at this guy. Big, strong, handsome, military. He's exactly what we need.
Everhart grinned and snapped his fingers.
You've got to wear the uniform.
Hawk heard sold. Unsure how he wanted to proceed, Hawk took the measure of the moment before answering.
Thank you, sir. You'll forgive me, sir, but this is all a bit sudden. It's an honor and a privilege to be asked to serve. It's a great opportunity, and also a great responsibility. You're aware that I'm recently retired after more than 20 years of service. You'll understand if I need a little time for consideration. And take all the time you like. We won't be ramping up for a couple of months or so, but I'm going to need to know fairly quickly